네, 저희 크립토인사이트가 공들여서 준비한 코너입니다. CEO인사이트 시간인데요. 오늘은 존콜하이퍼레인의 창립자를 화상으로 모셔보도록 하겠습니다. 네, 시청자분들께 먼저 인사부터 드려보도록 하겠습니다. John, could you start by briefly introducing yourself?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm John Cole. I'm the founder of Hyperlane. I've been in crypto now for going on 8 years. Uh, before starting Hyperlane, I'd spent time at Galaxy as the co-head of the investment business. Before that, was at an investment firm called Passport Capital. And before that, I was at Morgan Stanley, where I worked in the bond division. I'm someone who is always interested in how financial systems work. And one of the things that made me so interested in crypto and why 8 years later I'm still so passionate about this industry is that I'd always felt that there's something a little bit wrong, a little bit not correct with how banks operate. I'm someone who's had uh, been mistreated by banks in multiple countries and multiple times. And that really made me want to enact some change in how these institutions behave. And when I first learned about crypto back in the end of 2016, that really felt like this thing has a real chance to basically provide an alternative to the way banks operate. And eight something years later, it's still most of my life.
So in 2022, you started Hyperlane. So what made you build your own company, and what was it about Hyperlane's model that convinced you?
Well, there's a lot of really great parts there, so I want to make sure I try and hit all of them. From your first question about why even start your own company when you had this career to uh, what was appealing about something like Hyperlane specifically, and then what is it about the vision? Close friends, my wife, people who know basically what I had to leave on the table to at Galaxy to get this thing at Hyperlane started. They all thought it was completely crazy. And you know what? From a purely financial perspective, they probably were not wrong. And then you ask, well, so why would you do that? Why would you do such a crazy thing? And the truth is, I'd always wanted to try my hand at building, you know, something in the technology sector, right? Like, and I grew up in Israel, where it's a place where the the most successful people, the one who really kind of broke out of the Israeli mold, were all technology founders. Even when, late 90s, I'm a young kid, I'm 7, 8 years old, you would hear about just these amazing, in Israel we used to call it high tech. That's how we called the industry. People in high tech and the great things that they're doing and just the pride that they give to everyone by just representing the country so well. But the problem I faced was I don't come from a family with money. And so from the very first day where I started working, even well before I got to have a great job at a place like Morgan Stanley, I'd been supporting my parents. Needed something that I know that I need to bring at least this much so that I can help my parents stay afloat. And so for a long while, starting my own thing just felt too risky. Luckily, through time, things had changed and things had gone well enough to where that reality the reality had changed. And so now that was suddenly possible to take that type of risk. And one thing that you learn when you're on the VC side, when you're in venture, the only way to kind of get the black belt to become like a master at this craft is you have to do it yourself. And so it was very much two things aligning very well. And so that's why I felt like I had to do it the most aligned with like my life's goal. I want to change this system and I think this is the best chance to do it. I have to try. The way that I view the this industry as a whole, well, crypto can only serve, call it an internet scale of demand, a global scale of demand, and become a real viable, alternative in the financial services sector is if it scales. And to scale, we need horizontal scaling, a much larger number of chains. And so because of that, I felt like something like Hyperlane had to exist. if I think about it today, like if you were to rebuild something like Visa in 2025, where Visa didn't already exist, well, it would definitely involve blockchains. It would definitely involve stablecoins. And of course, if it involves those two things and the number of them continues to grow, there has to be a way to move those things around very easily between all the chains. And so I really think of something like Hyperlane. Of course, in the narrow sense, it's an interoperability framework. It's a way to connect these blockchains. In the grander sense, to me, this is what the value transfer network of the future really, really looks like. I really think of it as a sort of Visa of crypto kind of play. And so that's really the grand vision.
So the 2024 and 2025 market feels slightly different, more institutional money and less retail. What are your thoughts on this shift, and what strategies do you believe are essential to attract institutional capital?
That this time things are quite different. They're different from 13 and 14, from 16 and 17, and even different from 21. And I'd say the biggest difference from the difference from all of those before 21 is like very, very evident. But in 21, you now had the emergence of institutional investors getting access to the asset class through fund managers, right? So by then, there you had very large venture firms that were getting investments from very, very institutionalized LPs, you know, major US and European pension funds, major private equity firms. At one point, Tiger Global, which is like a world-renowned investment firm, was one of the most active investors in crypto. The ETFs for Bitcoin, you do have the ETFs for Ethereum, and certainly many more assets may come later. Well, now they can call up their broker and get access to the asset class where they couldn't do that before. And so I think that does represent a meaningful change in the market cycle. BlackRock is bringing first U.S. Treasuries. I can imagine bringing similar types of assets on chain. They see the benefit in that, not just the ease and now like maybe there's crypto wealth who wants more easy access to these things. There's clearly benefits on the issuer side as well. So that's one avenue. What and the industry is often at times referred to as RWA, real world assets, or the Wall Street types usually refer to it as just tokenization. Now, of course, someone like BlackRock is going to do a lot of its business on a chain like Ethereum, but the day may come where they might want to have a more controlled, more gated environment. You could imagine them creating a sort of BlackRock chain for them and for their clients to originate assets on, to conduct some trading on, and then have seamless access that is controlled according to their compliance, according to their rules, with a chain like Ethereum, like Solana, and others. And so that's where something like Hyperlane really, really shines. Serves over 150 chains and gets added to new chains every day. It can be customized and tailored exactly to the needs. They can do it according to their own internal rules. And that's exactly how we think about it.
Yeah, thank you for your insight. 오늘 말씀 여기까지 듣도록 하겠습니다. 네, 하이퍼레인의 CEO 존콜의 인사이트까지 저희 만나보셨습니다.